Hey everyone! All right, I hope you're able to make it on to the first live video of this new series that I'm starting, Planner Therapy. So if you're here, just say hi so that way I'll know you're here. But let's just go ahead and get started. My name is Amy. This is Aim to Plan. This is the first time that I'm showing my face on this YouTube channel. So hi everyone, I'm the face behind the hands, and we're just going to dive right in and get started. Okay, so I'm actually kind of really nervous about this, but I'm really nervous and excited to be able to talk to you about what this video series is all about. And so today, what we're going to do is actually kind of present or like I'll give you a bunch of information about like where the inspiration for the series came from, talk to you a little bit about what's going to happen in the series, and then at the very end of it, or not at the end, but like for a good majority of it, we're going to really be talking about how to use your planner in general for mental health and kind of diving into one specific thing that we're going to do towards the end. So that way you can walk away with something even today that can help you improve your work and your mental health and just general life for your planner, or like how your planner can kind of work with you and work in conjunction with what you have going on in your life. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and like I said, I'm just like really, really nervous. Okay. So, all right. The first thing I'll say before all of this is if there are any technical difficulties like audio or video, I totally apologize for that. I am both the face in front of the camera and also the person who's doing all the technical stuff for behind the camera. So it might be a lot of like kind of juggling some of those things. And again, I'm also really nervous. Um, hopefully that doesn't like detract too much from everything. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Let me go ahead and start off with a little introduction to who I am and what this is all about. So the first thing is really talking about who I am as a person, and then like where the series or like the YouTube channel that I created came from. So again, my name is Amy. I am actually someone who got into planning mostly for doing work related to, or not work, but planning related to like memory keeping. And so I wasn't really using the Happy Planner as like my planning system for a very long time. It was mostly just memory keeping for me. And I decided like in 2019, 2020 to switch to the Happy Planner as like my planning system. And that was around the same time that the Happy Planner released a lot of like different tools to use that weren't just planning related. There was like memory keeping related items. There were things related to wellness and fitness. And so I felt like at that time that I really wanted to be able to open a channel to talk about mental health issues. And in fact, like, I mean, one of the very first videos that I posted on my channel was related to like wellness and how those things can kind of be related. And so I was just like, like this is really something that I really wanted to do. And I really wanted to be able to kind of talk to everyone about like how planning can be a pathway to mental health and mental wellness. But, it's just been one of those things where, life gets in the way. I ended up like just kind of putting it on the back burner. And because of all the feedback that I've gotten from people, it's been just overwhelming, the positive response that I've had in just kind of pitching the idea to people, that I just thought that even though it's not the perfect time for me to start this series, I just don't know that there will ever be a perfect time. So it's just, I just got to do it. Right. So that's where this kind of comes from. And like how, like really the channel started as a way for me to kind of talk about psychology and counseling and mental health as an aspect of planning. And it's just taken me almost 2 years to get here, but I'm finally here. So hopefully this will be a huge component of my YouTube channel. So I'm really excited about that. Let me just tell you a little bit about my personal background and my professional background. So I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology. I ended up like working for a little time in a mental health field. I was working as a case manager at a local mental health center. And I decided at that job that I would go and pursue graduate degrees so that way I could do some additional work. So I ended up getting my master's in counseling and worked again after getting my master's in counseling for a while. I was actually doing like career counseling, academic counseling for students. And then once I got several years of experience, I decided to go even further and I pursued, like, I got my doctorate, my PhD in psychology. And so nowadays, what I'm doing is actually teaching. So I teach at a local university. It's a private school, and I work with the students and I basically teach them. But a lot of what I do is teach, advise, work with them on career goals, and really just kind of helping them shape them to like learn about psychology. So that's the main part of my job is teaching. But I also, on the side of that, have continued to maintain my license in psychology. So I am a licensed psychologist. I don't actually do private practice or do therapy right now, but one of the goals in the future is to be able to do these things. So I'm really excited about all of that. And like again, part of the inspiration for this channel is really to be able to talk about how those things kind of connect. So let me talk to you about the inspiration for the series. I kind of already touched on this, but I really want to be able to use this series, Planner Therapy, to be able to provide you with information that I have learned through my professional and personal experience that will help you kind of use your planner in a way that is, not just planning, but like how you can improve your mental health. So again, I'm really excited about being able to talk to you about some of these things. Again, at the end of this video, we're going to do something together as well. And you could be watching this as a replay. You can still obviously do the activity that we're going to be doing. But my goal for the entire series is to be able to provide you information and also to be able to provide you with something that you can kind of walk away with and have even that day. And so a lot of what I'll be doing for me personally, since I'm talking and writing and doing all these things at the same time, will be really kind of just putting it on paper and just making it very functional. But certainly I encourage you to, like, if you want to make it pretty, then that is totally up to you and you can certainly do that as well. Okay, so again, I'm really excited about this series. Let's run through a couple of, I think, really kind of important things just to kind of mention. I started this channel to talk about the Happy Planner and to kind of use the Happy Planner in conjunction with mental health. So most of this series will be very focused on the Happy Planner products. And so I don't think that there's anything that will keep you from using it in other systems. It's just that I will be using Happy Planner products. I will also say that for this series, because I'm using the Happy Planner, I'm trying not to like do a lot of DIY type stuff. I want to be able to show you how to use the products that you probably already have on hand to be able to put together some of the things that will, again, carry you forward in your mental wellness journey and not be something that you have to like spend a ton of time putting together, right? I actually have, like prior to using the Happy Planner, I was bullet journaling. And a lot of bullet journaling is like drawing out your own layouts and putting together a lot of like DIY kind of inspired stuff. And I don't want to take it that route. I want to be able to kind of use what we already have and be able to just adapt it in a way that will be time efficient as well as energy efficient. So that way you can just jump right into doing the things that you need to do to be well rather than like having to take time out of your day and create some of these things. And so that's kind of where I am in terms of talking about the Happy Planner. I do want to be able to use the Happy Planner supplies and tools that, again, that you probably already have and to be able to adapt it in a way that makes sense to you. So with all that being said, then what are some of the supplies maybe it could be Happy Planner, it could not be Happy Planner, but what are some of the things that I really think that you will need for the entire series? First of all, your planner. That's going to be very important. Some of the things that I'll be talking about are things that are going to be tracked directly in your planner. And so having your planner on hand as you watch these videos will be very helpful for you. Obviously, something to write with. And then I like to encourage you just to have a pack of filler paper on the side so that way you can do these things. And again, like I am going to be focusing on the functional aspects of planning and being able to put these things together. But if you are the creative type and you want to be able to put stickers and washi and all of the fun decor with your with what you're doing here, then that's totally fine. I just won't be able to do that as part of this series. Like I'm really focused on functional planning so that way you can just get to the other side and like have something laid out very quickly so that way you can just move on to the next thing that you have in your life and not spend so much time kind of like trying to put together spreads. And so, again, you can certainly go the route of stickers and everything else. I personally love stickers. And so it's not anything that I'm like not encouraging that you can use. You certainly can use it. It's just going to be, again, more difficult for me to manage that, especially in the live videos. Okay. Now, there are three aspects of of this series that I'm really going to be focusing on, and it's going to be these three things: planning, journaling, and tracking. And so, one of the running themes that you'll see as we talk through this series is that planning is very important for mental health. Journaling is very important for mental health, and then tracking certain aspects of mental health is going to be very important in terms of reading some of the trend lines and patterns that you have going on. And so a lot of this will be kind of writing out some of the things that you want to see for your life and kind of putting on paper what you think will be beneficial for you. And so um, I hope as we go through the series that you'll be able to see some of the things kind of in action. Okay. And again, like I feel like I'm like running through all this information, and but I wanted to be able to give you kind of like an overview and introduction to the series in terms of talking about what I'm really looking for in the series and what I feel like will be most impactful. And one of the things I will say with all of this is that with this series, I want to be able to present information that anyone can use. So you don't have to have a mental health disorder or a diagnosis in order to use this information, but certainly it is going to be oriented toward that. So we'll talk very specifically about specific topics that will be covered. Okay, I'm gonna pause here because, like, again, I feel like I'm just like rambling almost because I'm so like I'm like adjusting to the system. But if you have any comments or any questions or anything that you want to ask me, feel free to like type something in the chat, and I'll be watching it. I don't even know if you can chat, honestly, because again, like I'm new to this whole live streaming thing, so I don't even know if you can chat. You can leave me a comment later and just say, okay, I was trying to and I couldn't figure it out. But um, what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about some of the things that I think that I will be focusing on these things. Okay, so these are some of the mental health topics that I feel like I'm going to be covering in this series. So let's start off with the big ones. Like for me, one of the big ones that I'll be talking about is going to be depression. So I hear from a lot of people when, especially like I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and I see that a lot of people just really have issues with kind of managing depression symptoms and just kind of talking through like how can you use your planner, especially when you are depressed. What are some of the things that you can do during those times that can be really beneficial to you? And in fact, if you're here and you're watching this and you're wondering what you can do even now, just stick around. Like we're going to be doing something even today that will help you um, at least think through some of the things that you might want to have in your planner that could be helpful for you. So definitely depression is one of the big topics that we're going to be talking about. And again, I'm not here to address depression specifically, but I am hoping to be able to talk to you about how even while you are depressed or even when you're in a good mood, those things can be managed within your planner. So that's the first thing. The second topic that I think I'll spend a lot of time on is anxiety. I feel like anxiety is also a really big factor for a lot of people. Really, for me especially, like I feel like I have high levels of anxiety, especially like this is why I'm nervous about being in front of the camera. But anxiety for me is a really big thing, and being able to use my planner, even in thinking about using my planner, it feels like I get a sense of control back. And so being able to manage my anxiety through using my planner is something that I really want to spend a lot of time on and kind of talk through some of those things. So that's there. So depression and anxiety definitely going to be big topics. Now I put out kind of like this request for like information for things that people would be interested in. And so I have a list of things, and I'm gonna these are some of the things that I came up with myself, but then also some things or ideas that I got from other people. So I wanted to read through some of these things and just kind of talk to you. Again, this is an introduction to the series, and so we are going to dive deeper into all of these topics in later videos. But I already mentioned depression and anxiety. There were a lot of comments or suggestions related to habit tracking. Habit tracking is going to be a big topic for this series. Like, what are some of the things that you can track, and how can you use that to manage your symptoms, to be able to improve your mental health, and also just to like in general, if you're not dealing with a mental health diagnosis, how can you use habit tracking as a self care tool? So that's going to be a big thing. One of the areas, and this is not a suggestion from anyone, but one of the big areas that I do a lot of my like research and study in is a subfield of psychology called positive psychology. And so a lot of positive psychology is really looking at or like reinterpreting or reframing how we understand psychology. Most people think of psychology as more of a negative thing, but positive psychology is really focusing on emphasizing positive emotions like happiness and gratitude, and how can we use these more positive emotions to kind of push our way forward. And so I'm going to spend some time talking about like some of the things that the positive psychology research has put out there as things that are beneficial and things that can be incorporated into your planner. Okay, I'm trying to read through this list and talk at the same time. A lot of what we're going to be talking about, again, is journaling, but some very specific things that I do want to talk about in this series is like how do you focus on gratitude, especially during times when you don't feel the positive emotions, right? So when you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, how do you still kind of push through that and be able to identify gratitude or things that you're grateful for in a day? So we're going to talk a lot about that. I do have a couple of things here in terms of like specific tools that the Happy Planner has released that I do want to at least at some point touch on, and that's the all the guided journals that the Happy Planner has released, as well as the Wellness Planner and some of the tools like the Recovery Journal. Some of these things I don't actually have either, so I'm hoping to find these things before I do these videos. But the Happy Planner has, in the past couple of years, as I mentioned earlier, really like focused on wellness as an aspect of their line. And I know that a lot of people have become happy planners or purchased happy planners because of the wellness orientation for some of these things. And so I want to be able to like show you or at least have a chat with you about like some of the ways that you can use these tools that you already have and be able to tailor it to like what your personal situation is. So that's going to be a component of this. And so let's see, turning the page. There's so many pages. I want to, as I mentioned, do tracking, and there's a couple of other things that I put on here related to tracking like moods, tracking your weight, tracking your stress levels, tracking triggers that you might have. So if there are certain things that if you're dealing with a specific mental illness where you are triggered by certain things, then how can we track some of those things in your planner? And then there are some things related to like again the more positive emotions. So how can we engage in positive self-talk, positive affirmations, and how can we let go of some of the perfectionism and be okay with doing good enough in a particular day. So okay, that's like a lot. And again, like the goal for me is to be able to cover all of those things at some point in the series. But if there's something that you really want to be able to see, I would love to hear. I would love to be able to hear what you have in terms of thoughts that you want to see. And you can, again, feel free to put it in the chat and I will be looking through the chat. I'll try my best to like look at the chat and do these things. I am so happy to be able to talk about this series. Thank you so much for being here and watching with me. Okay, again, I feel like I completely like rambled through and like ran through all of that information. Like the goal was to, aim for 30 minutes. I'm not here to try to keep you for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours. So I still am on schedule, even though I felt like I was really, really, really talking so fast. But I want to be able to spend the last 10 minutes, especially if there are no comments, right? If we can do an activity together. Okay, so one of the things that you will need for this activity, and again, I want to be able to leave you with something that you can just use right away. What we're going to do is kind of put together, well, we are putting together a daily schedule. Okay, so what I want for you to be able to do, just grab a sheet of paper, grab your planner if you want to, but I'm going to be doing this on a sheet of paper. And let me actually flip camera so you can kind of see this. Let me do this. Okay, so we're here. I got to fix this because it's like falling apart. Like my system right now is kind of like being adjusted. Oh, as I switch cameras too, I just want to give a shout out to StreamYard. Like you can see this in the upper right corner, but thank you so much for like StreamYard being able to like allow me to be able to do these things in a way that makes sense. Okay, so anyway, let's get started. So you can see here I have a couple of things. These are some of the systems that I've already used. And again, like for me, I'm actually going to be writing this straight out on a regular sheet of paper, but I have a couple of things here. Regular paper. Again, that's all you need for this. That's all you need for this activity, right? So just pull a sheet of paper. It doesn't even have to be a Happy Planner filler paper, just a random sheet of paper, a Post-it note, whatever works for you. But I have that. I also have a couple of things here, like this right here is one of the daily schedules pages. This is going to be really helpful for you, especially as you kind of scratch out or like sketch out what doing today, you might want to like take this information and kind of convert it to something that's going to be a little bit like neater. So this is something that it's recommended, not required at all. Again, like my camera is like totally sagging, but I think it's okay. And then this I wanted to show to you because this is actually what I ended up developing. I did this like several years ago, and I've used pretty much the same one, and it's the same system. And we're going to talk about all of these elements as we go through it. And there's actually one element of it that I need to change out because I did add a self-care activity that's not listed on here. Again, this is like really old. I did it like 2 years ago, but we're going to talk about this, and I'll show you this again. Hopefully, I'll remember at the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. What we're going to do today, you can see here on the screen, it says that we're going to be doing a daily schedule. Okay. And this is really, really important from a psychology perspective because for a lot of people, when they're dealing with, for example, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, or any number of like mood disorders or emotion related disorders, a lot of times we tend to become so caught up in like what's going on in our head that we forget that there's a life out there that we need to live. And so what we need to be able to do is kind of sit still for just a second and think about, sketch out what are some of the things that we have to get done on a regular basis. Okay. And so I hope at this point everyone's grabbed a sheet of paper. If you are like driving or like moving and you're just kind of listening in, I hope you take the time later in the day or sometime later you can watch the video and just kind of do this. I feel like this is very important, and it's a good stepping stone to doing some of the other things. Okay, so what I have here is just a random sheet of paper. And what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to start off by like, this is really so crooked. I apologize for this camera. I'm going to scoot it down just a little bit too. What I'm going to do is actually start at the very beginning and just put times down the side. So for me, I'm just writing, like, I guess I should leave more time. So like 6:30 and then 7. Again, like this is not meant to be pretty. I'm just going to scratch things out and put things as they need to be put in, and I might move things around, and it is not meant to be something where I have to make it look pretty, at least at this stage. Again, you can go back and make it look pretty later. And so I hope you're following along with me. And I'm realizing now that I'm probably going to run out of space, so I'll have to use the back side of this page too. All right, so I'm down to 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30. I'm actually gonna maybe move over here. I'll just do it over here. 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10. This is 10 o'clock at night. And at some point you'll probably stop. Like for me, I tend to be a night owl, so I'm like over here at like 12 midnight, still kind of doing things. Okay, so that's there. So this is midnight and this is noon. Okay, so I went ahead and dated this. Again, like I have to fix this. Like I definitely have to do this. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is talk about like what are some of the things that you need in this schedule. Now I'm gonna pull this back out. There are a couple of things that you have to do. And this is like so important that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these blocks. Oh no, I hope my camera is not like fading out. Again, like I have like really bad internet in my area, so hopefully that's not a huge area. Okay, a huge issue. All right, so it's like for me, it's such a huge thing in terms of thinking about your daily schedule that we have to talk about it. So that's going to be your physical health, and physical health, not even like all aspects of physical health, basically eating. Okay, so one of the things that we should do is think about when you eat regularly. Now, this time will be different for everyone, but you know, just thinking about like just an average week or an average month, what are some of the like what is kind of like your general time frame for when you eat? I want you to be able to like think very specifically how many meals do you eat in a day, and what times do you eat those meals? Now, for me, ah, I hope it's still recording. I think it's still moving. Like I'm having issues with my like laptop. So for me, the big issue here is that I don't eat breakfast, which is, you know, like totally a bad thing, but definitely I don't eat breakfast. I do eat 2 lunches and a dinner, so I guess it's still 3 meals a day. But I don't eat I don't eat breakfast. So that means that like as I look at these hours, I'm not going to put any meals during these earlier hours. But I will like have my first meal somewhere around 11 o'clock. All right. So, I mean, it's really not breakfast. It's actually lunch. And I actually call it lunch number one. I really could call it 11sies, right? Like reference to The Hobbit, right? But so it's lunch number one, and I normally eat at 11 o'clock for that time. So I went ahead and put that time here. Now, again, one of the things that you really need to do is consider your overall schedule, like across times. And again, if you deal with depression, anxiety, or any mental health disorder where your schedules tend to change based on your mood, really consider the average time. Pick a time and go with that time. Okay. So if, like, for example, when you're feeling okay and you're like motivated and you're doing things like that, you eat at a certain time, then that should be the time that you kind of eat, even if you are like depressed or anxious. Okay, so pick a time and just kind of stick with that time. Right. So I put it for 11. I gave myself 30 minutes, but if you want to give yourself more time than that, then definitely you can do that. And then so I eat my first lunch right there, and then the second time I eat is somewhere around 4 o'clock. Right. And again, this is kind of lunch number two, but really it's kind of a snack. Right. So I'll eat like a small like snack slash like early dinner, whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, 4 o'clock is pretty early for dinner, but it's also really late for lunch. So it's kind of like this weird, it's kind of between breakfast and lunch, but we don't have a fancy label like brunch. So um, what, Linner, I don't know, dunch, I don't know. Anyway, so it's between lunch and dinner, but so I will eat here. And then I will normally eat again at 7:30, and this will be dinner. Okay, so I've put my 3 meals in here. Like, that's again really important for you to be able to put these times down. Okay, so that's the very first thing. The other thing that you will need to put on your schedule is going to be your sleep. Now, for me, I'm a night owl, and so that's why I wrote all the way to 12 midnight. For me, the bedtime that I want to aim for is right here at 11 o'clock. So I want to be able to like be in bed, or like just be in bed, maybe not sleeping, but definitely in bed by 11 o'clock at night. Okay. And one of the goals for you is to be able to get to the target number of hours of sleep. You know, everyone hears, you know, an average of 8 hours for an adult. And so somewhere between 7 and 9 hours is your goal for sleep. And so for me, I need only 7 hours of sleep. And so if I go to bed at 11, that means that I wake up at 6 o'clock. And so that's why I started at 6 o'clock here. Right. But whatever time you go to sleep, just make sure that you list those things down. Now, again, those are the big things. Now, when you do this daily schedule, here's from a mental health aspect, what you need to do. You need to stick to this schedule. Okay. So if you are feeling good and you're doing great and you're just really feeling motivated to, like, maybe you're at work and you're just kind of pushing through and you have lunch at 12 o'clock and you're like, no, I'm feeling really good. I need to like push through and just continue working, even though it's 12 o'clock and it's supposed to be my lunchtime. No, you really should stop and eat lunch at that time. One of the things that we know from like just like the psychology research and just like health in general is that if you miss a meal time, especially if your body needed that fuel, you're going to struggle a lot more in the afternoon. So even though you feel motivated at 12 o'clock to push through, you will do better productivity wise if you go ahead and take the 30-minute break or the hour, whatever time you have scheduled to take your lunch break. Okay. So just make sure that whatever you list here, and it can change. Like, I mean, I might decide like that 11 o'clock lunch is like really, really early, and I'll make a different schedule next month. But for right now, whatever your life is right now, just write your time down and stick to that schedule. Okay. So if you have lunch at 12, have lunch at 12 every day, right? If you are in a good mood, have lunch at 12. If you're in a bad mood, have lunch at 12. Okay. Same for all of your other meals. Same for sleep. Now, sleep is the big one here because a lot of times with, like, for example, depression, a lot of people will struggle and they want to go to sleep earlier or they want to go to sleep later. And so if you have your sleep time at like 11 o'clock, like I do, then that means whether I'm depressed or feeling normal or anxious or whatever mood I'm in, I'm going to be in bed at 11 o'clock. And we're going to have a different video just talking about like sleep hygiene and some of the things that you should do as a like a sleep routine wind down, kind of like a PM routine. Basically. But for right now, just put sleep down. Like, and whatever time you've listed for sleep, that's the time you should use. Okay. So, and you don't have to fall asleep, but definitely be in bed by that time, regardless of what's going on with your mood, right? Just be in bed and stick to that time. Now, the other big thing, and this will be the last thing that we're going to put in here, I'm going to show you this again, right? So I'm going to walk you through what this looks like, and you don't have to put all of this down. In fact, I'm not telling you to put all of it down. I'm only going to tell you to put one other thing down. But you see here, here's water, vitamins. This is my little like visual for like doing yoga. This is my Bible time, reading the news, doing social media work, and then having breakfast. This is when I like actually ate breakfast before work. But then I'll go to work. Then I will pick up my daughter Sophia, and then we will basically do a bunch of things. So there might be errands that we're running, like groceries, but I'll mostly spend time with her. She likes to do arts and crafts, and so we might spend time doing that. And then of course, like I have my evening planner time, and then we need to prep for dinner. And while I'm prepping dinner, normally I drink the rest of my water for the day. Then we'll eat dinner. Like well, this is actually supposed to be lunch, so that's out of place. But like eat dinner. Then we need to do like a little bit of light cleaning in the house. Then here's like getting together with friends, or like chatting, like FaceTiming, that kind of thing. And then here's my self-care time. I put like nails, which is a big one for me. Then here's like checking social media feeds like Facebook and Instagram, journaling, meditation, and then going to sleep. Now, again, we've already talked about sleep. We've talked about some of these food things. And of all the things on this list, none of this is required. None of this is required, okay? The things that I feel like you have to have in your daily schedule, we've already listed out here. But the one thing that I will add to the list, that's, again, not really required, but I definitely encourage it, and we're going to talk a lot about social support in future videos. But the one thing that I will encourage you to do is this one, and that's, where is your social support? Now, for a lot of people, like sometimes it's really hard for us to be able to like connect with people when we're in a certain mood. It could be very, very simple. I'm not asking you to like go out and like catch a coffee date with someone, especially with COVID, right? But definitely, I don't want you to like think of it as like a major task that you have to perform. It could be as simple as like sending a text to someone, right? And the way that, like, again, when I do psychology or like teach this in my classes, the way that I talk about this is that you need to make contact with people as the very first thing that you do. Okay, so even before breakfast, if you have breakfast on your list, even before you like brush your teeth, even it could be something where you're shooting off a quick message to someone. And it's also a good way of like saying, hey, I actually got up and this is the very first thing. It's on my to-do list. I need to do this thing. Okay. So again, like for me, I go to sleep at 11. I need 7 hours of sleep. So at 6 o'clock, I'm waking up. Now, no one wants to text at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I will wake up in the morning. This is where I wake up. All right. And I'm not texting anyone, but this is when I have like my conversations with like the very first person that I will see, and that's my husband. All right. And my daughter. My daughter is a night owl as well. And so sometimes she'll actually sleep in until 7 o'clock. And so if that's the case, I actually can take all of this right here. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should move it here. It should be at 7. Okay. So by 7 o'clock, my goal is to wake up and say hi to my daughter. It could be as simple as that. I'm not asking you to like sit down with an entire conversation and, you know, chat about life, but definitely just say, hi, how are you this morning? Did you sleep well? And that's it. Okay. So that's my very first conversation, is at 7 or 7:30. And again, like this is all scratch out. Like I'm not trying to make it pretty. I'll make a pretty version of this later. But so it's going to go here. Now, depending on like the types of social or like those social relationships that you have, you might want to have more contact with people. Okay. So if you're here and you've had your first conversation at 7 or 7:30, like I have listed, maybe my husband works, right? So maybe during the day, I will right around lunchtime, like in fact, during lunch, I'm going to send him a text hubby. Right. And it will be a very quick, like, hey, how are you today? How was your morning kind of text, right? It takes me 30 seconds to write that, but I've made contact with a human being. Okay. And again, this is very important from like a psychological perspective, because a lot of times we just don't remember to make these contacts, especially again, if we're in our head and we're just kind of like in a bad mood or we're in a low mood, we ignore these social relationships sometimes. Okay. So just make contact with people. I also like to call my mom regularly, not every day, but especially if I'm in like a really low place, I will try to call her. And the best time for me to call her is actually as she's like transitioning. And so for me and my mom, it's going to be somewhere around 3 o'clock. So I will call mom. This can be a daily thing. I actually could call my mom daily. I just don't, because I'm busy, she's busy. But the goal here is to try to call my mom every day on this daily schedule. Okay, you get the idea. Basically, the things that we need on a regular basis are going to be the food that will get us going to the next day, the sleep that we will need to clear our minds and like reset our bodies, and then social connections. And again, like we're going to see a lot about social connections come up across this series. But I tell my students when we're in class, like social support is like one of the like key indicators of mental health. Okay, so make sure that you are putting intentional time in here to make contact with people, and it takes like all of 5 seconds to send a text out. And so do that. All right, your homework assignment, if you haven't done so already, is to do this, right? And just create something like this for yourself. And then also go out there and text someone. That's it. Just reach out to someone, maybe someone you haven't talked to in a while. Maybe it's someone who you haven't you've been meaning to, but you just haven't. Just shoot them a quick text right now and just let them know that you're thinking of them, that you just wanted to chat with them. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm like, maybe like the 30-minute goal is not a great goal, but because like I can definitely talk a lot. So sorry for the feedback. I'm so sorry for that. So I hope that you were able to get something from this first video. Again, this is just the introduction to the video. I wanted to do something really quick and easy for you today with the daily schedule. We're going to come back and talk about this daily schedule in an upcoming video. So just make sure that it's something that you have thought about for yourself and that you've put together. And if you have any comments or questions, I will take them now, or feel free to leave me a comment later on if you're rewatching this, so that way I can answer this. Any questions that you have, I do try to respond to all of my comments. And so please feel free to do so. And I hope you enjoyed this first video. Again, this was just the introduction, so there is so much more to come. And we're going to end. Bye, guys.